The last thing my stepmother said to me was, "Don't be dramatic, Lily. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." She said it calmly, like she was reminding me to take a jacket. I was standing in the hallway with a duffel bag cutting into my shoulder, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped my car keys. My stepfather was behind her, arms crossed, already looking past me, like I was a problem he'd solved 5 minutes ago. The house felt too quiet. No yelling, no tears, just that heavy silence that presses on your chest until it's hard to breathe. I remember thinking, this is it. This is how my family ends. Not with a fight, not with love, but with indifference. My name is Lily. I'm 25 years old, and I never thought the people who raised me would betray me this cleanly. What still messes with my head is that just a few months earlier, I thought we were okay. Not perfect, but normal, or at least what I trained myself to call normal. My biological mom died when I was 10. After that, it was just me and my dad for a while. Late night dinners, frozen pizza, him pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. Then he met Karen. She came with soft smiles and rules that were disguised as concern. Soon after, she came with her son. Then came the wedding. Then came the slow shift where I stopped being his daughter and started being the extra. I learned early how to stay small. Don't ask for too much, don't complain, don't remind them you exist unless it's convenient. I told myself that was just how blended families worked. By the time I was 25, I had a job I worked myself into the ground for, student loans breathing down my neck, and a dream of finally moving out. I was saving quietly, carefully. I didn't tell anyone how close I was because every time I shared a plan, it somehow became available to someone else. Still, I stayed. I helped with bills. I watched my stepbrother blow through money like it was fake, while my stepmom explained why he just needed more time. I swallowed the resentment because I thought keeping the peace meant being a good daughter. But then, my dad died, and something ugly surfaced almost immediately. I won't get into all of it yet, but the night I mentioned the small inheritance my dad left me, the air in the room changed. The smiles froze. The questions came too fast. Who told you? How much is it? What are you planning to do with it? I felt that cold feeling in my stomach, the one that whispers, "You're not safe right now." I'm still shaking while typing this. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family or like love came with conditions, please subscribe and tell me in the comments. I swear, reading that I'm not alone is the only thing that makes this easier to say out loud. Because that inheritance wasn't just money, it was my way out. And the moment they realized that, everything changed. That night, the one where I stood in the hallway with my bag, the betrayal didn't start there. It ended there. And what they did right before that is the part I still wake up thinking about. Because once I noticed the first red flag, I couldn't unsee it, and it led me straight to the truth they never meant for me to find. That's what scares me the most about it now. It was subtle, almost polite. A week after my dad's funeral, my stepmother started knocking on my bedroom door again. She hadn't done that in years. Before, she'd just text me from downstairs if she needed something. Now it was soft knocks, followed by that careful voice she used when she wanted something without sounding like she wanted it. "Lily, sweetheart, can we talk for a minute?" Every time she said that, my stomach tightened. I learned that talk never meant a conversation. It meant a decision had already been made, and my role was to agree. She sat on the edge of my bed, smoothing the blanket like she was comforting herself, not me. She talked about how hard everything had been since my dad passed, how stressed the house felt, how my stepbrother was struggling emotionally. I nodded, even though my chest felt hollow. My dad was gone, and somehow I was still expected to manage everyone else's feelings. Then she said it. You know, your father wouldn't want money to come between family. I didn't respond right away. I stared at the crack in the wall above my dresser, the one I'd meant to fix for years, but never did. My mind kept repeating, why are we talking about money already? I asked her what she meant. She smiled, that tight smile. Nothing yet, just something to think about. That was it. No demand, no explanation, just a seed planted carefully in my head. After that, things started feeling off. My stepbrother suddenly wanted to hang out with me. He'd never cared before. Now he'd sit at the kitchen table when I made coffee, casually asking about my job, my plans, whether I wanted to stay local or move away. Every question felt like it had a hidden hook in it. One night, I overheard my stepmother on the phone. I wasn't trying to listen. I was just walking past the hallway when I heard my name. She doesn't need all of it, she said quietly. Pause. No, she's young. She can make it back. Make what back? I stood frozen, my heart thudding so loud I was sure she'd hear it through the walls. My hands went cold. I waited for her to say my name again, to explain, to laugh and prove I was being paranoid. She didn't. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything, the knocks, the smiles, the sudden interest in my future. I told myself I was overthinking it, that grief makes people weird, that families get messy around money. But there was this pressure building in my chest, like a storm warning. My thoughts wouldn't slow down. Why do they suddenly care about my plans? Why does it feel like they're counting something that isn't theirs? Why does every conversation feel like I'm being sized up? The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like I was being watched. A few days later, I came home early from work and found paperwork spread across the dining table. Bank brochures, loan statements, my stepbrother's name highlighted in yellow. My stepmother snapped the folder shut when she saw me. "Oh, this isn't what it looks like," she said too quickly. That's when I knew. Not for sure. Not yet. But something inside me whispered, they're planning something, and you're the solution. I went to my room, closed the door, and slid down against it, my heart racing. For the first time, I let myself think the thought I'd been avoiding. What if they don't see me as family at all? What if they see me as an exit? I didn't sleep that night, and the next morning, I decided to stop guessing and start paying attention. Because if I was right, what I was about to discover would change everything. I didn't plan to find the truth the way I did. Honestly, I think part of me was still hoping I'd been wrong, that I'd misunderstood, that grief had twisted everything into something uglier than it really was. I wanted proof, but I was also terrified of it, because once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it. And I knew whatever I found would force me to choose. The discovery happened on a random Tuesday night. My stepmother asked me to grab her laptop from the dining room so she could finish some paperwork upstairs. That alone was weird. She guarded that laptop like it was a diary, but I nodded and picked it up, telling myself not to read into it. As I turned to unplug the charger, the screen lit up. An email thread was open. My name was right there, not in a greeting, not in a "how's Lily doing" way, in a subject line. Transfer options, Lily's funds. My heart dropped so fast, it felt like my body forgot how to breathe. I stood there frozen, the laptop warm against my palms, my ears ringing. I knew I should close it. I knew crossing that line would change everything. But I also knew this was the moment. I sat down. My hands shook as I scrolled. It wasn't just one email. It was weeks of them. Conversations with a lawyer, a financial advisor, my stepfather asking what authority they had as guardians, My stepmother asking whether emotional distress could be used to encourage cooperation. Encourage cooperation. They discussed timing, pressure, how to approach me so I wouldn't react irrationally. They talked about my inheritance like it was already gone, like the only question left was how much resistance they'd face. Then I saw the line that broke something in me completely. She doesn't have anywhere else to go. I felt cold all over. They knew. They counted on it. All those years of telling me to stay, to save money, to be responsible, they'd boxed me in on purpose. Independence with invisible walls. I scrolled further, my chest tight, my vision blurring. There was a draft document attached, a power of attorney form, not signed yet. My stomach turned. I slammed the laptop shut like it had burned me. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought I might pass out right there on the dining room chair. They weren't just asking. They weren't just hinting. They were preparing to take it. I carried the laptop upstairs, every step feeling heavier than the last. My stepmother thanked me without looking up, already assuming my silence meant compliance. I went to my room and locked the door. Then I sat on the floor and cried silently into my hands, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Not loud, not dramatic, just the kind of crying where your body feels like it's folding in on itself. I wasn't just betrayed, I was strategized against. I wiped my face and forced myself to think, not emotionally, logically, the only way I always had. I took photos of everything I'd seen, the emails, the attachments, the dates. My phone felt slippery in my hands, but I didn't stop until I had it all. That was the moment something inside me hardened. They thought I was trapped. They thought I'd fold. They thought I was still the quiet girl who didn't make trouble. They were wrong. But I wasn't ready to confront them yet. Not until I figured out how to leave without losing myself in the process. Because once they realized I knew the truth, this house would no longer be safe. After that night, I stopped reacting. On the outside, at least. Inside, my thoughts were loud and sharp and relentless. Every smile I gave them felt fake. Every good morning scraped against my throat. But I knew one thing for sure. If they sensed even a hint of resistance, they'd accelerate their plan. So I played the role they expected. I nodded when my stepmother talked. I listened when my stepfather complained about stress. I let my stepbrother rant about how unfair life was, how no one ever gave him a real chance. I kept my face neutral while my mind raced. Stay calm, stay quiet, buy time. At night, I made lists on my phone and deleted them afterward. Documents I needed, accounts I had to lock down, people I could trust. Short list, very short. I contacted the bank first, using my lunch break at work. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. I explained the situation carefully, choosing my words like they mattered, because they did. The woman on the phone paused, then said, "You did the right thing calling." That sentence alone made my chest ache. I put extra security on every account tied to my name. New passwords, new email access, alerts for everything. I made sure no one, no matter how convincing, could touch what was legally mine. Then I called a legal aid clinic. Saying it out loud made it real. The betrayal, the emails, the power of attorney draft. I half expected the lawyer to tell me I was overreacting. Instead, he went quiet. "Do not sign anything," he said firmly, "and do not let them pressure you into a conversation alone." Pressure. That word stuck with me, because the pressure was already there, thick and constant, like the air before a storm. My stepmother started ramping things up. Her kindness sharpened into urgency. She'd sigh dramatically, talk about bills, mention how my stepbrother was barely sleeping. She'd ask if I was okay, then follow it with, "We really need to talk soon." My stepfather switched tactics. He went cold, distant, the way he used to when I disappointed him as a teenager. Silence as punishment. And my stepbrother? He got angry. "You're acting weird," he snapped one night, "like you're hiding something." I shrugged, heart pounding. "I'm just tired." He stared at me for a long moment, eyes narrowed, then scoffed. "Don't forget who helped raise you." That night, I packed a little at a time, not obvious, just essentials. Clothes folded inside tote bags, tucked under my bed, my documents hidden in my work bag, my spare keys, the few things that actually felt like mine. I waited. I watched. And then came the text that told me I'd waited long enough. We need to talk as a family tonight, no excuses. No smiley face, no softness, just a demand. I sat on the edge of my bed reading it over and over, my hands cold, my heartbeat loud in my ears. I knew what that meeting would be. They were done circling. They were going to push. And I had to decide, right then, whether I was going to confront them or disappear before they could stop me. Either way, by the end of that night, nothing would be the same. We sat at the dining table like it was some kind of twisted family meeting. My stepfather took the head of the table. My stepmother sat beside him, hands folded, face already tight with that practiced look of disappointment. My stepbrother leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, jaw clenched like he'd already decided I was guilty of something. No one asked how I was doing. My stepmother started. "We're worried about you, Lily." There it was, the opening line. I stayed quiet, my hands resting in my lap, fingers pressed together to stop them from shaking. My stepfather cleared his throat. "You've been distant, secretive." Secretive? Like protecting myself was a crime. My stepbrother laughed under his breath. "She thinks she's better than us now." That's when something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, but cleanly, like a cord finally cut. "I know about the emails," I said. The silence that followed was immediate and heavy. My stepmother's face went pale for half a second before she recovered. "What emails?" "The ones about my inheritance," I said, my voice steady even though my chest was burning. "The lawyer, the financial advisor, the power of attorney you were preparing." My stepfather's eyes narrowed. "You went through our things?" "You went through my future," I shot back. My stepbrother slammed his hand on the table. "Are you serious right now? We're drowning and you're hoarding money?" "Hoarding?" My laugh came out sharp and bitter. "You mean the money my dad left me? The money you were planning to take without my consent?" My stepmother leaned forward, her voice suddenly sharp. "We were trying to protect this family." "No," I said, "you were trying to protect him." I pointed at my stepbrother. He looked away. My stepfather stood up slowly, towering over the table. "You're being selfish. Your father would be ashamed of this behavior." That one hit. I felt it in my ribs, in my throat, but I didn't back down. "My father trusted me," I said quietly, "and if he were here, he'd be ashamed of you." My stepmother gasped like I'd slapped her. "After everything we've done for you? You raised me. That doesn't give you the right to control me." My stepbrother scoffed. "So what, you're just going to abandon us?" I stood up. "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm refusing to be used." My stepfather's voice dropped low. "If you walk out that door, don't expect to come back." I looked around the room. The walls, the table, the place I'd shrunk myself inside for years. My heart was pounding, but my mind was clear. I already don't belong here. I went to my room, grabbed the bag I'd packed, and walked down the hallway. Every step felt unreal, like I was watching myself from the outside. That's when my stepmother said it. "Don't be dramatic, Lily. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. For 1 second, just one, I wondered if this was the moment they'd soften, apologize, choose me. They didn't. So I opened the door. Cold air hit my face. My chest hurt, but it also felt lighter than it had in years. I stepped outside, the door closing behind me with a quiet, final click.
I stood there in the dark, bag on my shoulder, realizing something terrifying. Walking away was only the beginning, because the goodbye I was about to make would change me forever.
I didn't drive far at first. I just sat in my car at the end of the street with the engine running, my hands locked around the steering wheel like it was the only solid thing left in my life. The house was still there in my rearview mirror, lights on, curtains drawn. Everyone inside continuing their night like I hadn't just erased myself from it. My chest felt hollow, not sharp pain, worse. That empty, echoing feeling you get when something important is gone and your body hasn't caught up yet. I kept waiting for my phone to ring, for my stepmother to call and say she didn't mean it, for my stepfather to tell me to come home, for my stepbrother to say, "Hey, this went too far." It stayed silent. That's when it hit me. Their love had always been conditional, and the moment I stopped being useful, I stopped being wanted. I slept in my car that first night, parked behind a grocery store with the seat reclined just enough to pretend it was comfortable. I stared at the ceiling and replayed everything over and over, wondering how people could raise you, watch you grow, and still see you as a resource instead of a person. The next morning, I texted one person, a coworker who'd once said, "If you ever need somewhere safe, let me know." I'd brushed it off back then. She replied immediately, "Come over." I cried in her guest room shower quietly, with the water running so no one could hear me break. Not loud sobs, just tears slipping down my face while I pressed my forehead against the tile, mourning something I never really had. Over the next few weeks, the messages came. At first, they were angry, then guilt-soaked, then painfully polite. "We just want to talk. Family shouldn't end like this. You're hurting everyone." Not one message said, "We're sorry." I didn't reply. That was the hardest part, accepting that closure wasn't coming, that there would be no big apology, no moment where they suddenly understood what they'd done, just distance, silence, a clean break that felt anything but clean. I eventually found a tiny apartment. It smelled like paint and old carpet, and the heater made weird noises at night, but it was mine. I set my bag down on the floor the first night and just stood there, listening to the quiet. No footsteps, no tension, no waiting for someone to ask something of me. I thought I'd feel victorious. Instead, I felt sad. Sad for the girl who tried so hard to be easy to love. Sad for the family I kept hoping they'd become. Sad that walking away was the only way to survive. I still think about my dad. I wonder what he would have said if he'd seen it all play out. I like to believe he'd be proud, not because I was strong, but because I finally chose myself. I didn't get revenge. I didn't win. I just said goodbye. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fighting, it's leaving quietly, carrying your grief with you, and building a life where love doesn't come with a price. If you're watching this and feeling torn between loyalty and survival, please hear me. Choosing yourself doesn't make you heartless. It means your heart finally matters too. This was my sad goodbye, and somehow, it was also my beginning.